Hello, everyone. We are back. Back to fight again for the great US of E, United States of Epstein. Ha 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 ha. Uh, sorry, guys, but it's true. Well, where we left off, we did the forward slope defense, and yeah. It seemed like the best idea at the time, with all the advice we have been given. So, um, yeah, let us continue. Sorry for the pause, everyone. I thought my screen was bugging out, but let's continue. Finally, section 7. When his fighting position was finally complete, Davis put down his shovel. Davis was us, right? It's been a while. He and Cowper had used steel picks to loosen the ground, and then threshing tools to scoop out the dirt. They had piled sand in front of their position, and stacked black basalt blocks to create a strong fearing parapet. I don't know what it is. Working all day, they had burrowed 3 feet into the rock hill overlooking the tank ditch. Suddenly, the supersonic blast of a threat aircraft split the air above Davis's head. Hopefully one of ours. He dove for the ground. A second air-shattering shriek occurred as Davis was nose down in the dust of the desert floor. Stopped by the boom, the young lieutenant gathered his courage and looked up. A US Navy F-18 was chasing an enemy aircraft. The enemy bird, now just a dot in the eastern sky, pulled straight up to circle back toward his own lines. Suddenly, the small black dot burst into a bright orange fireball. The disintegrating aircraft hurtled earthwards in a twisting mass of smoke and debris. Davis's men cheered. There had been no warning of the enemy aircraft's approach. If it had been on a strike run against them, they would have been caught with their pants down. See what I mean, Lieutenant? The Air Force had just got this here war won already on us, Piper. Shut up, Piper! Shut up! I'm going to kill you. Let us see. The sun had passed its zenith. Davis motioned for his squad leaders to form around him. This was probably a Navy aircraft, and they won't be in our foxholes to defend this valley if we're attacked. Davis replied laconically before changing the subject. Let's get back to our operations order. Sergeant Piper and the squad leaders dusted themselves off, then moved back to Lieutenant Davis and formed a semicircle around him. The lieutenant's map lay at his feet in front of the assembled leaders. The point of our defense is to block the enemy from crossing the tank ditch. It's that simple. Yeah, shut up, Piper said as he pointed to the lieutenant's map, which was displayed on the ground in front of them. In war, so much is always unknown that it frequently happens that the simple to the complex is the rule of war. Therefore, the simpler, more direct, and clearer the beginning, the less likely action is to get out of hand. Like I said, I think yeah, I'm not sure if you chose well. Because, yeah, it is the simple. So, put this quote in. Correct, the platoon leader replied, scratching the plan of defense into the desert sand. It's all a matter of how we place our weapons. First squad will cover the north. Sergeant Jordan, leader of first squad, nodded. Second squad will cover the center. Third squad will cover the south. Each squad will have 8 AT-4s and its squad members to cover its assigned areas. I'll have both machine guns and 2 javelins in the center. From the center, we can range the entire tank ditch. As soon as an enemy comes into our best engagement range, about 1500 meters from our battle position, we'll clobber him with javelin fire. At the same time, Sergeant Mark will be calling for artillery fires. Right, Davis said. I'll be in the center with Sergeant Mark in second quad's position. I'll be in the center. Center's here. Oh, yeah, HQ. Sergeant Mark will call for fires for me. I'll use my radio to communicate with you and Captain Bludgell. Piper will be with third squad. We'll plaster the enemy with javelins and whatever 84s are left as he crosses the tank ditch, Piper commanded directly to the squad leaders. We have 6 javelin rounds per command launch unit. When these are gone, we'll have to rely on machine guns and small arms. If the enemy does breach the ditch, he'll have to cross one at a time. Perfect targets for our anti-tank weapons. Remember, no one withdraws without orders. You're safer to stay in position and fight from where you are. The enemy tank gunners will key on our movement. Once you're out of your holes, you won't have a chance against the army. Okay. The platoon sergeant FO. What is FO again? Let's see. Oh no, I'm not playing 2. Ah, what did I do? No, 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 no. I fucked up. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't look for FO. You won't find it. Section 6, 7. Here we are. And machine guns listened carefully, trying to make sure they understood their exact roles. They knew their lives depended on acting correctly the first time. If the enemy attacked, they might not get a second chance. What if they break through the minefields? I have 84s to stop them. After 8 shots, I'm out of tank killing ammunition. Yeah, the first. Here's one squad, second squad, and HQ. Yeah. I don't think they'll fight that tough. Once we kill a few of them, they'll probably turn north to avoid our fires. But if you run out of 84s, I want you to fire small arms fire and machine guns at the armored vehicles to keep them buttoned up, Piper concluded. What? Why? Right, Lieutenant? Yes, of course. Trying to envision the enemy withdrawing as Piper said. No, don't get sucked into his dumb ideas. The bottom line is that we have to stop the enemy from crossing the ditch, as Piper said. I think the anti-tank mines will make a big difference in our ability to block their attack. We'll have to work most of the night to place enough mines to make this happen. Sergeant Tyler said, Sir, my men are beat. Working all night won't boost their morale. I don't see any other way, Davis said, looking at Piper. We have to lay more mines. We need to put a minefield. And one on the north side of the tank ditch. We'll plug the gap on our southern front with another minefield, which will number M3. Last of all, we'll lay M2s to stop him in our engagement area in the center. We could set up a couple of triple strand wire barriers in front of M1 and M3, reinforcing the minefields that could convince the bastards that the tank ditch is the path of least resistance. Which will put him right in our killing zone. Sergeant Misoguchi, the leader of the third squad, answered with a grin. My guys are tired, but we'll take care of putting up wire at M3 tonight. I'll take us a while, but we'll have it done by morning. Look, I know how little sleep you had, but we got to make the most of our time. We'll have pretty good illumination for several hours tonight, almost a full moon. We can minimize heat casualties by working at night. Piper looked nervously at his platoon leader. 2 men had fallen ill from heat cramps. The water supply had run low as the temperature rose. No one knew when the 2 soldiers, pro from Sekvat, would return from the battalion aid station. Davis needed every man he could muster. How's second squad doing, Tyler? Davis asked the second squad leader. Both of the men were medevac today and should be back in 2 days. Everyone else is fine, Tyler answered, adjusting his glasses. I'm lining them up every hour, forcing them to drink half a canteen of water. Okay. M1, M2, M3, BP Alamo. Oh, this is mine 1, mine 2, mine 3. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Is it good that it's... Again, our forces are not concentrated. Maybe reverse slope was better. Or we should... well... Yeah. We are BP. Battle point, I guess. Alamo. The Alamo. Right now I'm after forcing them to drink half a canteen of water. Good! How is our water supply? Lieutenant Sandberg dropped off 10 gallons, 10 5-gallon cans just 30 minutes ago. He also brought 15 84s, some extra bullets, 20 white illumination flares, 6 green and 6 red star clusters, 10 rolls of concertina wire. That'll help. So total is 24 84s and 8 javelin missiles. I want to look at 84 again. 84, what was that again? 84, yeah, but it can be used against all armor. It's not sufficient of most battle tanks. Uh, uh, where did I go? Here. Yeah. Uh, Tyler, yeah. Mm-hmm. That'll help. 24 rounds doesn't sound exactly like a lot to stop them. That's why the mines are so crucial. We should fire the 84s in volleys 2 at a time at the same target. We'll get better results that way, especially against tanks. Excluding the effects of our minefields, we could destroy 15 or 16 enemy armored vehicles. That should be enough to stop them. The men fidgeted nervously. The thought of imminent combat was on everyone's mind. 15 or 16 armored vehicle was an awesome array to destroy. Wilco. Make sure there's plenty of small arms ammunition in each fighting position. I want each man to have 4 extra magazines, in addition to the self-report with us. Squad leader nodded. Alright, let's get cracking. Davis stood silent as the squad leader returned. Piper scanned the northern ridgeline of the valley and pointed to the crest of Hill 865. What do you say we climb the north wall and get a good view of the approaches that lead into the valley? I don't know. What about the positions? Still have a lot of work to accomplish. Your first lesson, sir, is to learn how to delegate tasks. You can't do everything yourself. Got in. The squad leaders can build this position and we can tell Cowper and Sergeant Mark to finish your fighting hole. Davis looked at the tank ditch and then back at the hill where his men were digging. The hill was a beehive of activity as soldiers swung up their picks into the hard rocky soil. Let's call it our leader's recon. We'll climb up the top and plan our battle whilst the squad leaders keep everyone working. What do you see, Lieutenant? No! No. This is retarded. You know why this is retarded? We are not a fucking scout. Yeah, we're going to Hill. I don't know where Hill 865 is. Where the fuck is Hill 865? Hill 865. Fuck off. Is that Somewhere here. I don't know what it is. Where the fuck is Hill 865? No, it's retarded. You know why it's retarded? Because yeah, you give the one in command and the second in command go on a lone scouting mission while the rest of the crew are left alone. That's stupid. You don't know what's going to happen. We're not going to leave our people alone, and I'm not going alone with Sergeant Piper so he can worm tongue me with my character with dumb shit. Um, no, he can go himself. Fuck him. Yeah, go there and go to that fucking hill. I'm not going with you there. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. No. No, 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 no. Yeah, I don't believe there's anything in our military quotes that helps us in this decision. But uh no, 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 I'm not going to leave the team alone because no, fuck you. No. To section 11. Section 11. Negative, we don't need to. I can see fine from here, David said, trying to take charge of the situation. Yeah. When possible, rebuke Piper. Fuck him. He unfolded the map and beckoned for the platoon sergeant to bed down as he pointed out key terrain features on the map. Besides, I need to take time to complete the artillery plan with Sergeant Mark. Piper, his mouth full of chewing tobacco, fucking spat a thin dark brown string into the dust. Okay, I'll get the men to work on the minefields. Yeah. The platoon continued working. Good. Davis and Sergeant Mark finished their artillery plan. Minefields M1 and M2 were completed on the flanks of the tank ditch. Wire was strung along the west side of the ditch to keep the enemy infantry and sappers out of the obstacle. Piper sighted the machine guns and javelins of the headquarters section. The rest of the platoon continued to dig and improve their fighting positions. Piper kept the platoon working throughout the day, squeezing every minute of preparations out of the available time. Night arrived in slow, colorful stages. First the sun glowed orange-red as it sank over the horizon. Then the shimmering heat of the day was suddenly cooled by a comfortable breeze. The western horizon became gorgeous hues of orange, red, and yellow. Arabian Nights, like Arabian days, hotter than hot. Da, 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 da. For a moment, Davis forgot about the task at hand. He sat in awe and marveled at the beauty, the celestial spectacle playing out before him. Well, that's good. Then his thought turned to preparations for the battle that lay ahead. Yeah, must be very beautiful. The BP was almost complete, except for the requirement for overhead cover on the top of each fighting position. Davis hoped that the company XO, First Lieutenant Sandberg, would come through with the building materials he had promised at the company operations order meter. XO, I already forgot what that was. Davis contemplated his combat power. He had a total of 38 men, including 2 javelin gunners with their ammunition bearers, 2 M60 machine gunners and their ammunition bearers, and his 2-man forward observer team. The left 28 other men to fire. That left 28 other men to fire anti-tank rockets, automatic weapons, and rifles. That was all he had. He hoped that it would be enough. The moon shone brightly, making the hard work of laying wire and placing anti-tank mines a little easier. The desert was an eerie scene in the bright moonlight, a world of half-lit shadows. After a while, Davis discovers that he could operate in the dim light almost as well as in the day. More importantly, it was much cooler. Around midnight, the noise of artillery became more discernible. Sporadic cannon fire pounded the ground far to the west. Enemy or allied fire, I don't know. Davis observed the quiet desert night with his night vision goggles. The company radio net was filled with routine reports, interrupted by a few intelligence updates from the battalion that were passing over the command net by Company XO. Like I said, I forgot what XO was, but he's a supply guy, I think. Yeah, I forgot. Sometime after midnight, Davis settled into his position, hoping for a few minutes' rest. He had pushed himself and his men hard in the hot desert sun. More than anything, he looked forward to a few hours' sleep with Cowper pulling guard. He leaned back in his fighting position and quickly dozed off. Sir, it's Sergeant Mizuguchi on the radio, Cowper said in a zombie-like voice. Sir, it's Sergeant Mizuguchi on the radio. Davis twitched and surprised out of his sleep. Slowly he gained his senses and grabbed the radio handset from Cowper. 1-6, this is 1-3, over, Mitsuguchi called on the squad radio to the platoon leader. This is 616, send it, over, Davis replied. I hear an engine. I can't see a vehicle, but I hear it. Roger. Could be a friendly allied armored car. They're supposed to be in the front of us to the west. Keep observing and call me as soon as we can determine our location. Maybe a scout. That's not good. Roger 1-6. Tense, quiet minutes tick by into hours. Everyone strained to observe the phantom enemy that Misoguchi had reported. No one saw or heard anything, and no other action was reported. If that was an enemy reconnaissance vehicle, yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Davis reflected. He certainly was careful not to blunder into our positions. Could he know where our positions are? Do they have someone watching us? How else could he have avoided being seen? Hell, what am I saying? It's probably Mitsuguchi's imagination. Maybe not. Davis checked his watch and waited, searching to the west for any indication of the enemy. The night passed slowly. He had always been told that the hardest part of any battle was the waiting. My grandpa always said, my grandpa is a bit of a draft dodger. He always said there's 4 things you learn in while drafted and that's fucking, it's drinking, it's gambling, and the fourth, it's waiting. Yeah, yeah. He got out as soon as he could. Uh, Luckily, we're not drafted anymore. Maybe soon. I hope not. But yeah, used to be a thing. Now he realized that it wasn't so much the waiting as it was the thinking. Your mind plays out all your fears when you're sitting in a foxhole. 1,000 miles from home, peering out in the dark, nerves quickly got on edge as you expect to be in mortal combat at any second. Am I sure that my men can stop the enemy from infiltrating our positions? Davis thought. Can I block the enemy in Wadi al-Sari if he decides to attack down Axis Cobra? We'll put up enough mines and wire. 1,000 questions circulated in his head. He looked at his watch. It was now 3:40. He lay down with the receiver pressed to his ear. Wake up, Lieutenant, Sergeant Piper said as he nudged his platoon leader. Huh? What the hell? Davis mumbled, groggy from lack of sleep. He was sitting in his 2-man position with a poncho liner pulled over his body. Sir, it's already 6:30. Time to inspect our positions, Piper replied, dropping a brown MRE ration into his platoon leader's foxhole. He must have nodded off right before stand to. Shit! Sergeant, why didn't you get me up? Davis protested feebly. Don't worry, sir, I reported to the commander on time. Everything is going fine. You worked your butt off last night. You need a couple of extra hours sleep. We all need it tomorrow if the enemy attacks. Davis rubbed his tired eyes and then reached for the emery that the sergeant had thrown at his feet. Now that it was daylight, he would have to double check each position. What about Mizuguchi report of an enemy vehicle last night? We didn't have any other reports all night, Parker reported. Lieutenant, he never saw anything. He just heard something. Noise carries far in the desert at night. There's probably a case of the first battle nerves. Davis opened his emery and surveyed the contents. Corned beef hash again, he complained. You never had it so good, Parker said with a devilish grin. By the way, while you were sleeping, the battalion destroyed a burden in the north. Got all the way into the tank battalion saying before it was knocked out. Burden? Burden? I don't know what a burden is. Maybe a plane? Damn, that's pretty good reconnaissance. How to get by our entire battalion? They said, finally getting full. Don't know. They went looking for the obvious. Maybe they came straight down the road. The latest intel from battalion is that the enemy overran an allied reconnaissance company that was screening to the west, at 40 clicks from here. Things may get exciting pretty soon. So did our allies fight or did they just turn tail? Davis asked. They fought, Piper replied, spitting a wad and chewing tobacco juice in the dust. The XO came by while you were sleeping and dropped off 30 corrugated steel sheets. Like he's our supply guy, he's Santa Claus. He's dropping by. He comes by and then he drops off. Okay. Top of 30 sheets, 20 more mines, and 600 sandbags. Additional 84s, 35 gallons of water. I'll never say another bad thing about company headquarters. Yeah, but you need javelins. You need more javelins. Why? Because they're the only things that can take out heavy tanks. Guess what else the XO told me? What did he tell? David shrugged his shoulders. We're all going on R&R in Bahrain. I don't know what it is. Shit, Lieutenant, get real. Bludgel named our position here BP Alamo. Alamo? The Alamo! The Alamo, that's like US history something, right? Well, yeah, it's something about Texas. Did they fight the Mexicans? I'm not sure. Davis said, looking up at the as the sun as he swallowed a spoonful of cold corned beef hash. You know, beef doesn't sound too bad for a meal. Is that supposed to be funny? This time Piper shrugged. You know the CO, he's from Texas. Don't ask me how his mind works. Davis looked over at the sergeant, Mark, and the two RTOs. They were sprawled on the ground, the poncho lines covering them, sound asleep. Cowper slept on his side, with his precious radio near his chest. The men are beat, sir, Piper protesting. Tired soldiers won't fight well. Davis knew that the soldiers were tired. Conservation of their strength was critical. I recommend we let everyone catch a little sleep. We're ahead of schedule. The war can wait. The muffled rumble of distant explosions could be heard far away off the west. Hey, Sergeant, I'm tired too. Sir, if you don't give these men 2 hours rest, there may not be anyone awake to defend this position tonight. Davis looked at his watch. The cumulative effect of hard work, heat, and fear had worn the man ragged. Davis knew that his men needed rest. Maybe Piper was right. Let them rest or continue working. Well, I'm thinking through things. First of all, you're not the medic. If they are really too tired, really too tired, I saw the squad composition thingy, and we have a medic. And a medic's role is to tell me such things. But the medic hasn't said anything. Uh, Going against Piper is always a good idea. So I don't like that. I think we should go against them. Um, and let's be honest, if a fighting starts, adrenaline will kick in. Then you'll be awake. Then you'll be awake. I have worked all nighters and stuff like that. You need that. I've worked night shifts before, and that's after 24 hours of not sleeping, and that ride home, the adrenaline kicks in, and you turn into a maniac, and that's what you need during the battle. Like, nah, nah. If there's battle, adrenaline will keep you awake. Adrenaline will not build your defenses or lay your mines. Yeah. Ahead of schedule, you don't know when the enemy attacks. You don't know how quick they are. Something already overrun. No, 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 no. Fuck resting. Sorry, guys. Fuck resting. You can live off adrenaline if the battle happens. And if you're really, really too tired, the medic would have said something. I don't know who our medic is, but I've seen somewhere in the back of the book that every squad has a medic. And Piper is not that medic. So fuck off. Yeah, fuck off. Fuck off. Uh, we are going to continue working. Uh, Not yet. We have plenty of mines left to lay, and they won't stop tanks unless we set and arm them. Yes, sir. I guess the heat is getting to me. Now you're a hothead either way. I'll tell the squad leaders that they can start their rest plans after all the minefields are laid. They'll keep them going. Good idea, Lieutenant replied with a grin. You can tell them that I'll be checking each fighting position in the afternoon. The javelin and machine gun positions better be perfect. I don't like how this guy is focusing on positions. Like maybe we get overrun and we need to run. Well, there goes your position. But late mines will be late mines. If you run or not. And barbed wire, those will stay. Piper smiled a very smile and then shouted for the squad leaders who slowly trudged over to him. Like a padre into church, Piper delivered a sermon that was direct and full of fire and brimstone. After a few minutes, Piper dismissed the loyal congregation, and the squad leaders, energized by the platoon sergeant's exhortation, scurried off to accomplish their tasks. The desert sun bore down on them, making each job difficult. The sweat-stained men moved about the position like zombies. Okay? Piper was everywhere, checking, cajoling, and inspecting. He verified the overhead cover by making two men jump on the roof of every fighting position. If the cover didn't hold the weight of two men, it wouldn't be much protection against enemy artillery. Wait, the defenses we can build now are good enough to protect against artillery? Okay. I would think that if there's artillery on our asses, we just GTFO. Or then free. Because fuck that. I'm not gonna die to artillery. I watched what was it, Tanya the Evil, where she reassigned the annoying squad mates to the pillbox that got destroyed by artillery. I remember that. Sergeant Piper, yeah, if they can destroy a pillbox in World War One, in Magic World War One, I guess. But yeah, okay. Sergeant Piper walked. If my knowledge of Tanya the Evil will help me win this playbook, it will be funny. Sergeant Piper walked carefully over to Davis' fighting position. It's a nice anime though. I think they uh, recently I learned that in in Tanya the Evil that they're like you have like lolly World War One wizards. And the main character, yeah. It's like a lolly. Um, but uh, what happens, and I recently figured it out, she said like there is a Soviet Union equivalent. Basically, they got to the Soviet Union, you know. And she said commies have shit air defenses or anti-air defenses. And then lately, I read about a story about some German dude that landed a plane next to the Kremlin during Soviet times, and he wasn't shot down or something like that. They really had shit anti-air defenses. All right, continue. The squads have completed their positions. We have a few more mines to lay, but all in all, we're ready. I've been thinking about tomorrow, Davis said. But we'll need shoot. What's on your mind? Pipe and kneel down on one knee. Shoot. What's on your mind? Are we sure that we can stop the enemy from infiltrating into our sector? Davis questioned. Can we block him in this valley if he decides to attack down Axis Cobra? If we put up enough mines and wire. Don't get the jitters now, sir, Piper said with a broad smile. All we have to do is stop them at the tank ditch. We'll be fine, trust me. Shut up. But another quote, an obstacle loses 50% of its value if you stand back from it, allowing the enemy to reconnoiter the approaches and subsequently to cross without interference. Okay, okay, fine. Put it in the quotes. Yeah, you can go. Put it in the quotes. Quotes. Sure, you're right, Davis said, nodding his head. We're almost ready. Piper insisted. This is turning into a textbook position. Okay. Laid our weapons to cover the dead space with every approach into the valley. Took a lot of work, but we dug 92 soldiers fighting positions. Each position with a corrugated steel roof, reinforced with rocks and 4 layers of sandbags. We have open firing ports dug into the flanks of every bunker for anti-tank weapons to fire to the front and the oblique. On top of that, we've laid more mines and barbed wire than I can count, Davis added. I don't know what's bugging me. I guess I'm just a little nervous. We all are, sir. Don't worry, you'll do fine, just fine. Well, I better swoop the line and make some last-minute checks with the squad leaders. I ordered them to execute a sleep plan and rotate the men's duties between sleeping, working, and security. Still have jobs to do. Piper walked off into the dark. So it's dark. David settled into fighting position. Cowper sat patiently nearby, ready to offer his lieutenant the radio handset at the first sign of trouble. The night hours passed slowly, uneventfully. The company radio net was filled with routine reports, interrupted by a few intelligence updates that were passed over to the company command net by the company XO. Hell, I wish I thought of digging some crawl trenches between our positions. Then again, in this rocky soil, such a task would have taken us forever. During the night, the sky far to the west, behind the giant ridge, was lit up by the bright flash of explosions and the eerie glow of artillery flares. Reminds me of the movie Civil War, if you've seen it. Davis was tense with anticipation, but relieved to know that the flashes to the west were still far away. 1-4, this is 1-6, Davis whispered into the Smithsonian's radio. Do you see anything? Negative. Don't worry, 1-6, I don't think they'll attack at night. How do you know that? Piper replied with the quiet confidence of a veteran soldier. They'll probably sign a ceasefire agreement tomorrow anyway. Shut up! Maybe Piper is right, Davis thought. Hell, once they found out they're up against the United States, America, they'll probably head home. The night wore on without incident. The reports sent over the radio remained routine. Davis lay down with the receiver of Cowboy's radio pressed to his ear. 1-6 is 1-3 over. An excited Sergeant Mizuguchi, who is excited, announced over squad radio to the platoon leader. It was 1-6, send it over. Davis replied, I hear helicopters. They sound pretty far away, Mizuguchi reported. Mizuguchi has good ears, he hears things. Can you tell where they are? Do you see them? Over? Not sure. The sound is off to the southwest. Over. Davis paused before answering. Damn, I wish I could have seen those helicopters, Davis thought. Where did they go? Was the troop carrying helicopter or a scout? Or ours or theirs? Hell, they're probably friendly. And nobody told us we're in the area. Mizuguchi is just jumpy. He's hearing things again, like Nesta. No! Trust Mizuguchi! Trust the Japanese. Sounds gone now, Mizuguchi added. Call me if you sight anything. Out, Davis ordered. The hours passed. At 3 at night, the rumble of distant military foretold that the time of battle was drawing near. Suddenly, Davis heard the distinct crack of grenades and machine guns to the east. Cowper, get command, company headquarters on the radio. Cowper tried in vain for several minutes to call Captain Bludgell. Sir, I can't get anyone on the radio. I think we're being jammed. They had that technology? That's not good. Why can't I reach the company commander? Davis contemplated with the consequence. Could the enemy be taking in our rear? Had they contacted an air assault? If so, why did they leave me alone? It's interesting, just on just reading into like what is it? Signal jamming. I forgot it's SIG int. Yeah, that's what the military calls it. SIG int. The night sky faded into the light shade of grey. The sound of battle in the east rose to a crescendo. The sky near BP Bro was illumined by traces and explosions. The tension mounted, tension rising. The noise of artillery started again. The sounds of big guns and rockets pounding the ground could be heard now to the west. The steady drumbeat of artillery shells grew ominously nearer with each passing minute. Doesn't look like the enemy was eager to sign a ceasefire. Who would have expected? Every indication is that combat is imminent. I can sense that the men are nervous. Fear is in the air. I can see it or smell it, but it's there. As real as if it were made of flesh and blood. Billows of black smoke could be seen on the western horizon. Davis put down his night vision goggles and trained his binoculars in the direction that he expected the enemy armor to advance. The ground to the west of BP Alamo sloped downward for 4 kilometers. That's a long way down. Then gradually rose for an additional 4 kilometers to a jagged ridge on the western horizon. Between BP Alamo and this ridge was nothing but empty desert. As the enemy approached from the west, you would have to cross this open space against the brigade deep fires. Unfortunately, Davis knew how weak those deep fires were. Only 1 battalion of artillery and a few sorties from Navy planes and Air Force A-10s. The carrier based had a short loiter time because of the distance of the battlefield from the aircraft carrier that they called home. The A-10s, on the other hand, could stay longer because they were from Allied Air Base, 40 kilometers to the south. The A-10s, quoted tank killers, had the disadvantage of being old, big, and slow. With the improvements in air defense systems in the past years, the A-10's survivability was always a matter of the pilot's skill and luck. Maybe the enemy won't attack through my valley, Davis thought. They will. flight of aircraft screamed overhead, flying low over Wadi el-Sari. The aircraft headed west to attack the advancing enemy columns. Sir, I've been eavesdropping on the artillery net, Sergeant Mark reported. All the long-range stuff is engaging the enemy. We'll be in battle with the main force soon. The sound of outgoing artillery shells punctuated Mark's words. The rounds arced high overhead and exploded to the west, detonating with a rumble that shook the ground in Wadi el-Sari. A pair of planes roared across the sky, dropping cluster bombs on advancing enemy armor. I hope the brigade punches the hell out of them, Davis thought. We need every chance we can to even the odds. In offensive and defensive tactical actions, commanders fight the enemy throughout the depth of his dispositions, with fires and attack on his flanks and rear. They attack committed and uncommitted forces and synchronize the attack of enemy artillery in depth with close operations. Such in-depth operations degrade the enemy's freedom of action, reducing his flexibility and endurance, and upset his plans and coordination. Remember, we want to force them away, that was the plan, from our little valley. So we want to force them to open space. So we need the flexibility to not come into our damn valley. They probably will, but no. The sound of multiple explosions resonated from the area beyond the jagged ridge to the west. That's our stuff, Davis shouted to his men. Get ready. The enemy will be on us in about 20 minutes. Davis focused his binoculars on the exit of the jagged ridge, 8 kilometers to the west. The passes were filled with dust and smoke. Suddenly, dark objects began racing out of each pass, then scores of vehicles moving in high-speed columns quickly exited the narrow defiles and raced east across the broken desert terrain. There they are, Davis declared, pointing to the distant ridge. Sergeant Mark gave his lieutenant a worried look, then put the radio receiver back to his ear and continued eavesdropping on the artillery radio. The rumble of explosions increased. The detonation sounded like the strike of a huge hammer, pounding the earth to the northwest. Davis watched with silent satisfaction as one of the enemy columns was blanketed with the impact of cluster bombs and artillery shells. A number of vehicles in this column were struck by the bomblets and burst into flames. More vehicles, however, bypassed the wreckage and continued on their determined path to the east. American planes darted above the advancing enemy formations. A volley of anti-aircraft missiles greeted the attacking aircraft. A fiery explosion edged the mid-air destruction of one of the planes. Several other aircraft, having already dropped their ordnance, ignited their afterburners and roared back to the east, attempting to outrun effective missile defenses. The sound of outgoing artillery shells suddenly died. The battlefield grew ominously quiet. Our deep operation is over. Now it's the enemy's turn. That's it, sir, Mark announced. The planes are heading home. We may get some A-10s later. We'll get fires only if we can target a large formation of armored vehicles. Every man faced to the west, watching the enemy columns get closer. The sound of bursting artillery pounded a steady pace from west to east, interrupted this short interlude of quiet. The explosions moved with precision in an inexorable wall of exploding steel toward the American positions. Balls of orange flame erupted in the openings to the trails of the western edge of Wadi el-Sari. The earth shook under the thunder of the enemy guns. The bursting artillery shells showered the American positions with rocks and dirt. Shit. Here it is. Incoming! As he dove for the bottom of his firing position. A storm of fire exploded over BP Alamo. Oh fuck. We're getting bombed. Fuck. Should have gone with the reverse slope, guys. A storm of fire erupted over BP Alamo. The shelling rose in intensity to a deafening roar as the earth exploded in fire and smoke. In a flash of crimson, one round after the other roared in on the defenders, engulfed in fire and flying steel. BP Alamo became a burning charnel house. Fuck! Fuck! No! Fuck no! Davis looked to the west over the parapet over his fighting positions. The shelling was too precise. It was as if the enemy had an observer targeting each firing position. Fuck! Fuck, fuck. Roll the dice, spilling that wheel. Alright, what do we have? Roll the dice. 2, 12. 4. Section 15. Okay. Through the thick snow, Davis could see two columns of enemy armor racing towards Wadi al-Sharif from the west. A battalion-sized unit of enemy tanks and armored infantry fighting vehicles was headed directly for him. The enemy was about 800 meters away and closing fast. Davis ducked down and hugged the bottom of his fighting position. The enemy artillery fire continued to pulverize BP Alamo. Flying metal filled the air, whizzing past at high speed in a terrible trajectory of death. The enemy fire is extremely accurate. Too accurate, Davis thought. Either they have an observer nearby, or they use laser-guided artillery shells. Sir, I finally got through to the battalion mortars. They're pulling back. The company has been shot to hell. They have enemy infantry all over the place. We're on our own. Enemy infantry? The bastards must have conducted an air assault on our rear. Why the hell have they left us alone? We're fucked. The enemy artillery fire slackened. The dazed survivors of BPL raised their heads to see the medic! Medic! Fetterman is dead, so is Gerber. Fuck. Everybody check your weapons. The enemy will be here soon. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Fuck. Get those javelins ready. Pip stood up and shouted to the javelin elite gunners in position. Don't fire until the enemy gets to the minefield. Two explosions detonating 200 meters to their front. Take cover! A single artillery round exploded directly on top of a position on the north edge of BP Alamo. The high explosive shell disintegrated the position in a blast of fire and smoke. Davis fell from the force of the blast. His ears were ringing so badly he could barely hear by. Shit! They're taking us out one time with an artillery. You got to get rid of fucking hell. This is a bit shit. I grab something to drink. Well, let's roll the dice again. 7. Section 55. Not me. Section 55. No. Oh. Okay, here we go. I died. Fuck. Well, the ground exploded 20 feet in front of Davis. This is it. Davis thought, I'm not going to make it. The next shell landed right on top of the young lieutenant. The incoming round exploded. In a flash of fire and steel, Davis was thrown through the air. When Davis finally opened his eyes, he was covered with blood. It took a few moments for him to realize that he was still among the living. As Davis began to move his limbs, he discovered that his legs were broken. He recoiled in pain. Flies buzzed everywhere. Davis was numb and sick. His mouth had a coppery red blood taste. He couldn't move his legs. He looked around his position and saw the body of an American soldier several feet to his left. At first, he couldn't tell who it was. The body didn't have a head. Then he saw the radio on the corpse back and realized that it must be Cowper. Fuck. Fuck me! Davis couldn't seem to focus his eyes. He saw people walking around and someone was shouting. He waved his right hand. Help me! In seconds, he was surrounded by enemy soldiers. They pulled at him, took his watch and wallet, and kicked him when he wouldn't respond to their commands to get up. Davis recoiled from the blows, using his right arm to guard his face. Suddenly, the kicking stopped. He was so numb now that he couldn't even feel the pain. Finally, someone sounding very official barked commands in Arabic. Hans reached down and jerked Davis up. He screamed in pain. The next thing he knew, he was lying on the back of a truck, bouncing through down a rough desert trail. A mean-looking guard, brandishing an assault rifle, sat near the tailgate of the truck. The guard's eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at Davis. Lieutenant Bryce Davis was now a prisoner of war. Great! He had failed in his mission. Every soldier in his platoon was either dead or captured. The enemy had broken through Wadi al-Sari and driven the Americans to the east. Davis had three options for the defense of Wadi al-Sari: defend forward of the trails, inside the trails, or behind the trails. He selected to defend forward of the trails from BP Alamo, which overlooked the anti-tank ditch. This option engaged the enemy at maximum range, and that required the first platoon to destroy the enemy as he crossed the anti-tank ditch. To increase the strength of his defense, he reinforced the anti-tank ditch with wire obstacles and minefields. Okay. Defiles limit the area for maneuver and combat. They favor the placing of obstacles and hindrances. The defense of a defile, I don't know what a defile, can be executed either in front, within, or behind the defile. The main battlefield is chosen in front of the defile, when the defile must be held open for the following forces. So I guess that because we're in front, that's not how I interpreted that decision, but okay. Fucking hell. Fucking guy. The greatest weakness of the BP Alamo's position was that the defense was linear and placed the entire platoon within the range of all the attackers' weapons. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Should have known. Piper was too happy. He should have known. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel once said, "It's easy to break a line. The disadvantage of a linear defense is that the enemy can mass superior combat power and break the defense at any single point. Fighting a mechanized armored enemy who possessed superior direct fire ability, or was my fear, made for the forward slow battle position defense an impossible task for lightly armed infantrymen." In addition, Davis failed to conduct a personal reconnaissance of the battlefield from the enemy's point of view. Another quote from the German Field Service Regulation illustrates the point. If conditions permit, the terrain must be reconnoitered also from the hostile point of view. Okay. Davis failed to do this. He did not look at his position from the enemy's perspective. His positions were in plain view of the enemy. Fuck. The easy prey for a determined observation post capable of calling in artillery fires or a skilled gunner in a tank or BMP. Davis underestimated the enemy's firepower, and this error was fatal. In the final analysis, victory or defeat depends significantly on the leader's understanding of the application of tactics. Sun Tzu, the great Chinese military philosopher, described the essence of tactics in the following words. If I'm able to determine the enemy disposition while at the same time conceal my own, then I can concentrate while he must divide. And if I concentrate while he divides, I can use my entire strength to attack a fraction of his. There I will be numerically superior. Then if I'm able to use many to strike few at the selected point, then I deal with will be in dire straits. Davis employed the wrong tactics for his situation. Learn from your mistakes and try again. Yeah, I should have known that Piper was too happy. Happy, happy, happy. So I'm going to go for a reverse slope now. I still think to divide the troops like this is bad. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to do a reverse slope defense and move the platoon. Yes. Back in time. Back in time. Section 5. Haha. Good. Davis stood up. Stood in front of his platoon sergeant. I've had it with you. Yes, I've also had it with you. I've had it with you, Piper. Walking up to the older man and standing toe to toe. We either work as a team or we're gonna get the hell shot out of us. Piper glared back, not moving. He held his entrenching tool menacingly in his right hand. So what do you have in mind, Lieutenant? I'd really like to know, since I've been breaking my back for the last hour trying to punch a hole in this rock-hard hill of ours, Piper growled in a cold, steely, determined voice. Private First Class Cowper stopped digging to watch the fight. One by one, the soldiers halted their work and turned their attention towards the two leader. Piper, get your rifle and come with me, Davis ordered. The lieutenant grabbed his rifle, slowly walked down the hill. He sauntered off toward the tank ditch without looking back to see if Piper was following. You want me to? Shut up, Cowper! Piper silenced him. Monitor the radio. I'll be back in a few minutes. Piper walked off at a quick time, trailing after the lieutenant. The platoon remained on the small hill east of the tank ditch, watching their leaders depart. Davis continued a steady stride, carrying his rifle in the crook of his left arm. Piper followed 4 steps behind the lieutenant. I think next time we use as much cover as we can get. If there's a valley, you hide in the valley. Obvious in hindsight. But, yeah. Davis arrived at the first ditch. The ditch should have been dug inside the valley as well. He quickly scanned the area, inspecting the work. The ditch was long and well dug. It was approximately 1.8 meters deep. With the spoil from the digging placed in a mound on the friendly or eastern side of the ditch extended from 100 meters short of the northern wall of the valley to about 300 meters short of the southern wall. An attacking armored force would be faced with either breaching the ditch or taking the narrow passages around it. As Piper neared the tank ditch, Davis heard the metallic click of a magazine being snapped into the sergeant's rifle. Is he going to shoot me? Davis turned to face the platoon sergeant. Look at our position, Sergeant, Davis said in a calm and steady voice. pointing back to the soldiers digging into the small rise east of the tank ditch. This is the view that the enemy will have when he gets there. Is that where you want to be when an enemy tank is sitting here? Piper hadn't taken the time to look at this position from the enemy's perspective. The shallow holes that the platoon was digging on the rise seemed awfully open and very obvious. The dark dirt and the black rocks piled in front of the holes clearly identified each fighting position. Yeah, it was instantly apparent that the platoon would be fully within the range of the enemy's supporting fires. Yeah, I wish I would have known that before. Resetting my recording software. Yeah. Yeah, fucked up. Should have known this. The black rocks piled in front of us clearly identified each fighting position. It was instantly apparent that the platoon would be fully within range of the enemy's supporting fires. Yeah, sitting ducks, they call them. Piper, however, was a proud man. He wasn't ready to give up without an argument. They're never going to get over this tank ditch, Piper announced, irritated by the inexorable thrust of Davis' argument. It's too deep for tanks or BMPs to cross. Bull! If mountains and rivers can be overcome, anything built by man can be overcome. Davis argued emphatically, especially this puny tank ditch. I'm not willing to put all my thrust in one hole in the ground. Maybe the bastards will attack us dismounted. Be reasonable, Piper. If the enemy conducts such a dismounted attack, what good is the tank ditch? Piper didn't answer, just stared back at the hill where first platoon was assembled. Our mission is to block the enemy from using this valley, Davis continues persuasively. We don't have to defend the tank ditch to do that. But we may be able to use it to trap the enemy. Trap? Piper repeated. If we can fight from that hill, Sergeant, we fight a frontal defense against an enemy with superior firepower. He will be as obvious as a neon sign on a dark night. He'll smash us with his tank cannon and heavy machine guns like a fly swatter smashing a bug. It won't matter how well we deploy our weapon systems. He can shoot at us from 2,000 meters well before we could open up on him. Is that what you want? Piper kicked the ground in $1 as it would. It's time we come to an agreement, Davis insisted. The XO tells me that you're the best platoon sergeant in the battalion. I know he's right. I think if we work together, we can make the best platoon in the battalion. A grin came, or we're trying to blow in his ass, you know, blow smoke up his ass. A grin came over Piper's face. He looked back at Davis, who stuck out his hand. Shit, Lieutenant. All you had to do was ask, Piper said, beaming, as he took the lieutenant's hand and shook it vigorously. Sergeant, a platoon fighting against itself won't stand up against the enemy, no matter how strong its defenses. The soldiers on the hill watched the two men below them, shaking hands, began to whistle and applaud, and everybody clapped. Okay. They acted like children who just had seen their parents fight, then watched them make up. I guess we've been acting like a couple of jerks, Davis said, pointing to the platoon on the hill. Yep, maybe so. You know, it's always like this. Every strong leader has to come to terms with his second in command at some point, Piper responded. Just glad we did it before the battle. Piper looked to the west, scanning the terrain for the avenues of attack. Damn it, Lieutenant. I never had this problem during Desert Storm. Basically, all we did then was attack and take a lot of prisoners. But I see that you're getting at it. I see what you're getting at, and I think you're right. Well, I've been looking at the map, David said enthusiastically. Think you'll agree that we get chopped up if you try to take the enemy tanks and BMPs head on. We need to create a situation where we can use our small force to hit them at close range. His greatest advantage is his long-range fires. What if we were able to arrange our position so that he couldn't shoot at us until it was too late? Sounds good. I'm with you so far. We have to minimize the advantage of the long-range direct fires, Davis said. The only way I can see to do that is to mask our positions behind the hill on the reverse slope, where the trails empty out into the valley. If we do that, we'll gain security and we might be able to shift the odds in our favor. We could destroy the tanks and BMPs, don't know what that is, one by one. Probably a vehicle of some kind. As they come into the mouth of the valley, Piper added. But we give up the tank ditch. Yes, David said confidently. But the ditch could only slow an enemy attack, couldn't stop an enemy attack. If the ditch slows him, we can use artillery fire to disrupt his movement across the ditch. With artillery fire falling on him, we may rush into our engagement areas buttoned up and unaware. Good idea. The enemy may also see our present condition on top of the hill, and if we fix them up right, he might think they're occupied. Exactly. We could use the positions we've been digging to deceive him. Davis could see that he had convinced Piper. Ah, deception. This sounds like a kung fu thing. Sun Tzu, that's the name. Isn't named in kung fu, but Sun Tzu. Those positions could absorb some of his artillery. On the reverse slope, we can hide from his direct fire and ambush him as he comes out of the narrow passes. Okay, Lieutenant. Where do you want our primary positions? Davis pulled the acetate map from his cargo pocket of his pants and laid the map on the ground. He knelt down, orienting the map to the north, and motioned for Piper to bend down and join him. Here's what I think we should do, Davis started, pointing at the tank ditch with his finger. We can use the reverse slope of the western mouth, Wadi al-Sari, to trap the enemy. You can be strong everywhere. We have to drive him into a trap where we can use our close range weapon against him. Is this magical deciding point that the book was talking about? Where you have the vital point. If we set up our defenses correctly, we can trap him at the openings of the northern trails into Wadi al-Sari. Davis pointed to the map and designated the area where he expected to trap the advancing enemy armored vehicles. Piper nodded in agreement. First, we create dummy positions on the hill. As you have suggested, that'll make it look like we're defending forward. Then we'll complete the work on our reverse slope positions. Tomorrow night we'll move into these reverse slope positions. We'll divide the platoon in half, covering the trails that open into the valley. You'll take charge of half platoon on the south, and I'll command the other half in the north. You should place several minefields on the eastern ends of the trails that open into Wadi al-Sari, Piper added, pointing to the map. We need to do everything we can to get flank shots with our 84s. Yes, we can place wire and mines on the southern edge of the tank ditch, Davis said, pausing, and make our defense in the south look like a main effort. This may help turn the enemy to the north, where I want to trap him. I'll position the javelins to target enemy vehicles using trails 1 and 2, the narrowest of the trails. If only 2 javelins, we can't afford to split them up. I am very glad we chose this instead of the dispersed thing, because we know from the future that they will jam our comms. So I like the way you think, Piper Esther. We need to mass our best anti-tank weapons where they do the most damage. Concentration and security are the keys to this defense, Davis continued. To move fast, the enemy will try to exploit gaps in our defense. We'll be looking for holes. As the enemy approaches our defenses, he'll see obstacles to the south. Attack niche in the center. Fighting possessions that overlook the ditch. I'm betting that his natural tendency will be to go north and avoid our strain. This may force him to take the northern trails that lead into the valley. At the reverse slope, the two northern trails are the most constricted and are easiest to block. As he gets into the narrow area along the north wall, we'll use mines, javelins, and 84s to stop him. If he tries to force his way to the south, you'll hit him with 84s. I want a game like this, but then in 40k, he plays the Imperial Guard. That would be fun. But they'll never make it. Maybe they will. Let's hope that doesn't happen, Piper said. Right. If he attacks south and forces his way to our obstacles, I'll reposition to hit him with my javelin teams as he tries to get by you. Uh, in that case, you stand fast and I'll strike him from behind. What do you think? Sounds like we got a plan, Lieutenant, Piper said, grinning. What if it doesn't work? Davis paused, eyeing his platoon sergeant closely. What do you mean? Don't get me wrong, I like it, but we should have a fallback area. But if you can stop him, what's your recommendation? Designate a rally point along the south wall to our east. If everything falls apart, we can assemble there. Good thinking, Davis said. Happy that the team was now working together. You select the rally points, the FO, and I will complete the plan. Get the detail together to get our barrier material and mines in position. Start in the south. Looks like we'll be better off working through the night and sleeping shifts during the day. Yes, sir. Then with parade ground precision, he saluted and marched briskly off the hill. Davis returned the salute and turned around to look west, trying to visualize the enemy attack. He reached for one of his canteens, found it empty, and then reached for the other. He could tell from its weight that it was only a quarter full. He unscrewed the plastic top and drank every drop. He made a mental note to check into the water situation when he got back to the platoon. There are circumstances in war when many cannot attack few, and others when weak can master the strong. One able to manipulate such circumstances will be victorious. Okay, thank you, Mr. Kung Fu. I'll keep that in mind. Keep it in mind, Mr. Kung Fu. Go to section 42. Section 42. That is 41, 42. I wonder what kind of decision we have. Oh, we have this. Ooh. Ooh. Yes, this will be for next time. Yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. Thank you all for watching, for watching the rifle platoon. Our first death from our first choice. Yeah, yeah. In hindsight, it's pretty obvious, but and I shouldn't have been a order following Tuck, I guess. I should have noticed the first time Piper was happy. That it's a mistake. So yeah, never trust command. Uh, if there is cover, use it and don't get blasted apart by tanks. Have a good Have a good war, you guys.